Well, hello, Dexter. How are you? I'm tired today. You're a tired puppy, aren't you? You sore from all the walking around yesterday? Hello truckers, it is a beautiful day for trucking in the USA, and today is Q&A Wednesday. And so the first question comes from Stephen Brinkley. Hey Nick, was wondering when and if you are going to get a stinger for the trailer, and if so, what would your max weight on the truck and trailer be? I'm assuming you meant to say at the end of that. Stephen, what my max weight would probably be is I can go in most states 12.5 on my steer axle, 60 on the drive, 60 on the trailer, then 20 on the stinger. That'd give me about 152.5. My empty weight at that point will be right at about probably 52.5, somewhere in there. The reason I haven't got a stinger yet is they are crazy expensive. It's about 25 grand for a brand new stinger from Trail King. I really don't find too many of them that are used. I could go for a mechanical booster, but I don't want to. The reason being, a mechanical booster, if you don't do things right, you can actually rip the back of the trailer off. I actually saw someone do that last week, so not a good thing to have happen. That really causes a lot of problems. So because of that, I want to go for the mechanical booster because it'll automatically level your trailer out, and it'll run on the ground with constant pressure. It can automatically go 26 inches up, 26 inches down, and it stays in that range there and provides good constant pressure on the ground. So if you go over some railroad tracks or something like that, you don't tear the back of the trailer off when all the weight winds up back on that axle. It'll actually let everything work. Next question, Geoff Clayton asks, do you watch any YouTube trucker like Sergei Dratch? I do occasionally catch other truckers' videos. Here's the thing for me. I've been doing trucking for 13 years now. I'm doing a channel about trucking, and so when I work as a truck driver all day and then I do a trucking channel all day, at the end of the day, watching YouTube videos about trucking is not very interesting to me. It's simply because where a lot of people are in their career, which Sergei, he's definitely up there. He's a heavy hauler. He does a good job at what he does. But for a lot of the YouTube channels that are out there about the trucking industry, it's kind of like where I was in my career 10, 11 years ago. So just for me, it's not as interesting as some things are. I mean, most of what I watch today isn't trucking related. It's stuff on filmmaking, it's stuff on sailing and things like that that I'm really interested in. I just like to watch people blow shit up too. Next question. HuntStunt16 says, I love your videos. I'm 13 years old and I want to be a trucker hauling big loads like this. How long have you been driving trucks? Well, first, thanks. Glad you enjoy the show. I've been driving since 2003. When I got out of the Navy, I got medically retired out of the Navy. I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I kind of tried a few different things, and then my dad suggested, hey, why don't you go get a CDL? And I said, well, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. I've always liked trucks. I've always thought about driving a truck. So went to a guy locally by the name of Gary Prince. Gary had a trucking company, and talked him into teaching me how to drive. Gary taught me how to drive, and the rest is history. Helped me get into my first truck. Really learned a lot from the guy. He had like 4 million miles of experience when I started, so really got a great education. Both his sons, Rod and Dave, taught me a lot too. So I really got some quality information there when I was just getting going, and I really wouldn't realize till a couple of years after the fact how much they actually taught me while I was there. And then I started seeing some of the other drivers on the road, and it was like, wow, man, I really learned a lot. So I was very thankful for that experience. J-Boy Webby asks, for an owner-op, what percentage of your gross income is your net? I'm assuming what you keep. With the company that I'm leased to right now, I get 88% of the load. Now, I do have to pay my own insurance, and there's a couple of different ways that companies do that. Either you get like 75% of the load, and they pay all the insurance, all the IFTA, everything else, or you get a percentage like I get, and then you pay the insurance, you pay the IFTA. I actually like it this way because my insurance runs like $1,600 a month, and so I can produce more freight than that, so I actually make more money this way. If you weren't running a whole lot of miles, or you weren't making a whole lot of money, it might actually be better the other way around. It just really depends on what works for you. Again, J-Boy Webby also asked, what do you think of TMC as a company to drive for? Well, here's the thing is, I have some not so nice things to say about TMC, and here's why. Way back in the day, I drove for Yellowstone Trucking. Yellowstone Trucking was a pretty cool outfit, had a lot of great people there. I met a lot of really awesome people at Yellowstone Trucking. It was where I bought my first trailer. The guy, Jack, that sold me my first trailer, Jack, was at Yellowstone. And so I got to do that. We were the principal contractor for Boeing. We were hauling all the pieces of the C-141s. Really awesome gig. I had a whole lot of fun with it. Unfortunately, what happened was TMC bought them out. It messed up the whole program, and pretty soon the company, I could tell, was going downhill. And within a couple of years of me leaving, it actually completely ceased to exist. And I went to another company out of Indiana at the time, Steel Machinery Transportation. They were great people. As far as like if you're going to drive for a company, TMC's okay, I think. I don't know that I'd be an owner-operator with them, but I think as a company driver, I think you can do okay working for them. I don't know what their pay scale's looking like these days. And also the thing you have to consider with this as well is when TMC bought out Yellowstone, it was Harold's son that was running the company, and he did a whole lot of things. He almost ran him into bankruptcy, and then Harold had to step in and take it back over. So with the old man running the company, I really don't know. I know he built a really large company, did a really good job of it in that respect. So I think as a company driver, I think you could do okay. Based on what I know, I would not work as them for an owner-operator. Tim Novak asks, would you like to drive in Europe? And if, what company, when which truck label? Thanks for the video greets from Germany. Okay, I'm assuming that Tim's first language is not English, he's probably German. And so I'm going to kind of translate this question just for the audience. He's saying, basically, would I like to drive in Europe? What company would I like to drive for, and what type of truck would I like to drive? Is there a bad guy out there? You don't like that guy, do you? Video intermission by Guard Dog. So Tim, to answer your question, it would be interesting to drive in Europe. I don't know. I've never really thought a lot about it. I've never been to Europe. It's someplace that I definitely want to visit. Dexter, that's enough. Thank you. Europe is a place that I definitely want to visit. I'm planning on going there someday in my sailboat. As far as driving a truck in Europe, I really don't know. I've heard that you guys drive governed trucks, and I'm not big on governed trucks, so that really, I don't like that aspect of it. I mean, it'd be very cool. It'd be a very amazing experience if I could do that someday. As far as what truck brand I'd like to drive, or truck label, as you said, Kenworth. I've always been a Kenworth lover. That's what I love. That's what I drive. I've owned 4 of these things. All of them have been W900Ls for a reason. I've driven other types of trucks in my career, but I've always found myself in a W9. That's what I love, and if I want to be driving, that's what I want to drive. And it would be really cool to come drive one in Europe. I doubt that's an option. I don't even know if these things are road legal over there, because I'm sure you guys have way different specifications on what your trucks are supposed to be than what ours are. And I mean, I guess there's a couple of guys that are on a couple of the forums I've been on that do have these over in Europe. I just don't know what the deal is, if that's even possible. But ideally, if I was going to go Europe, I'd love to go large car trucking in Europe. I really don't know that much about European trucks, so it's not really something I can comment on. And it's not really something I've ever looked into. It'd be a neat experience, I'm sure. I just really don't know. I know I am planning on seeing Europe by sailboat in a couple of years. And I will add to that, I'm from a German family. My family is from the Rostock area of Germany. They came to the United States early 1800s, so, but it'd be really neat for me to come back over to Rostock and see that whole area and everything, and just kind of have an understanding of where my family came from, because that'd be really cool. Next question, Chris Barr asks, where in Montana do you live at? I'm from the Livingston area. I'm born and raised out there. 5th generation on one side to live in the state, 3rd generation on the other. So my family been around there for a good long time. Cheyenne Hewlett says, you've got to be from Wyoming with a name like Cheyenne Hewlett. Love your videos, Nick. You're very inspiring. I'd love to know how you train your dogs to be so well behaved in and out of the truck. Have a great day and keep them trucking. Well, thanks. What it is with Dexter, the reason my dogs have been so well behaved is I started with Dexter when he was just this little 6-pound ball of fluff at 6 weeks old. And I just, from the get-go, I gave him a certain set of rules and parameters that he is expected to live inside of. And I didn't let him get away with things, because I think that's where people tend to go wrong with puppies. They're like, oh my god, he's so cute, and they let him get away with the bad habits when they're the little dog, and they don't realize that that little dog is going to get so big so fast. And they're very smart. I had Dexter trained on hand signals at 12 weeks old. He could sit, he could lay down, he could do the things like that on hand signals at 12 weeks old. I mean, incredibly smart dogs. And so I just put in the time to train him. Right from the get-go, I was training him. I worked with him a couple of times every day. And when I first got him, I'd take him with me everywhere I go. I'd have that dog in my hand for the first 2 months of his life. I was just carrying him everywhere I went with me. I always kept him with me, and I gave him a lot of instruction. And just doing that so early on in his life, it made such a difference. And that's what really made Dexter a lot of what the dog he is today. And it's the same way with the last German Shepherd ride I had, Palex. And unfortunately, someone killed Palex, and that was a really unfortunate deal. But with both of these dogs, they've been really well-behaved dogs. They've been really goofy. You just can't help but love German Shepherds. They're great dogs anyways, but you have to give them structure, and you have to give them the environment that they're going to thrive in. And they're going to thrive when they know what the rules are. And when they know what the rules are and they know what's expected of them, they turn into really good dogs. And so that's kind of my philosophy on it. I know people have different philosophies, but for me, start them early with a foundation of rules, stick to it, give them an environment they're expected to operate in, and reward them when they stay in that environment, punish them when they get out of it. I think the biggest thing is that you just keep the rules for your dog consistent, and then they'll understand. That leads your dog being confident that they know that they're being good, they're not worried that they're messing up. And also, you don't want to punish out of anger. You want to, if you're going to punish a dog, you need to make sure that it's solely because they messed up, you're righting the behavior. Don't yell, scream, get mad, things like that, because that causes a lot of problems between you and your dog. So just be level-headed with them, be calm, cool. If you're going to punish your dog for something, do it in a very methodical way. Don't just go crazy and beat the dog or something like that. That's not cool. You don't want to yell and scream and do things like that, because it just is going to cause problems between you and your dog. Next question, Zebra3 asks, I have a question about sleeper berth and off-duty. I've watched videos on hours of service regulations, but I'm still confused, and there's something simple that I have to be missing. My understanding is that when you go into sleeper berth mode, that you can be no place other than in the sleeper, as opposed to off-duty, where you're taking your 10-hour break. But that can be anywhere as long as you're not performing company work functions. If that is the case, why would anyone ever use sleeper berth when they're locked to being in a single spot instead of just using off-duty? Fairly new subscriber, love the recent platform changes, have a good day. Well, first of all, thanks, glad you enjoy what I've done with the show here. It seems to be working really well so far. Here's the deal with sleeper berth. Way back when, you could split your sleeper berth into any size block that you wanted, so sleeper berth was a really good deal then. You could take a 4-hour chunk and a 6-hour chunk, you could take a 5 and a 5, you could do any combination thereof, and you could make your sleeper berth time work any way you wanted it, as long as you fixed it into 2 blocks that added up to 10 hours. It was great then. It made it so easy to get my job done. I loved sleeper berth then, because I could stop in the middle of the afternoon while afternoon traffic was going on. I could take a nap. I could wake up by the time everybody is off the road. I could get in the truck and I could fly. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case now, and so now with the way things are, they've changed it around where they want you to take a 2-hour block and an 8-hour block, and the way that they've done all that, and it has just royally screwed up what was a really good thing. In my opinion, the reason they did it is it made it too easy for drivers to make their logbooks work, and it made it a lot harder to write violations. I think that is the whole reason behind it. I could be wrong about this, but I think I'm probably right. That being the case, sleeper berth today is not such a great deal, and you are right. If you're logged as sleeper berth, you are supposed to be in the sleeper. And there's a lot of misnomers. There's a lot of different ways that's explained. I've had people say, well, you're supposed to log off duty, and then when you go to sleep at night, you're supposed to log the sleeper. No, I'm never, ever, from the second I go off duty, it is none of DOT's damn business what I do, because I am off duty. I am not performing the function of a trucking company. It is none of their business what I do in that time. And a DOT man asked me what I was doing in that time. I will flat out tell him it is none of your business. And they're just going to have to deal with that, and that's the way that I've operated with that, and it's worked really well for me. And I've seen some crazy stuff too. I had one DOT cop tell me, "Oh, you have to use sleeper berth if you're in the truck." No, I don't. I can take 10 hours off duty. And there is nothing in the law that says that you actually have to sleep during your 10 hours off. I mean, I could be out doing jazzercise on my 10 hours off, and it's none of their damn business as long as I'm not operating for the furtherance of a trucking company. The whole point with that is I had one in particular that told me that I had to provide the receipt for a hotel room or prove where I was if I was going to log off duty. I turned around and I threw it in his face. I said, "Hey, the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution states that I cannot be compelled or forced to provide evidence against myself. It is up to you to prove that I was not doing what I said I was doing." And with that, the conversation ended. And it's unfortunate that there's a lot of people, it's unfortunate there's a lot of DOT cops out there today that don't understand this, and unfortunately there's getting to be a lot of them that just don't have that well of a fundamental understanding themselves, and I've had plenty of arguments about this. And really what's kind of funny right now is with the whole EOBR mandate thing up in the air. Technically speaking, the rules of service don't exist right now because the logbook requirement that they put in and changed into the regs, it got thrown out by the courts, which I wouldn't go running around without a logbook. That would be just universally stupid. And if you say Renegade said that the whole hours of service thing got thrown out, I'm going to tell you you're a flipping idiot. But technically speaking, when the court overturned the section, and it's 395 point something, I can't remember exactly what it is offhand now, and I'm not going to go look it up tonight, but where they inserted the EOBR, if you look at what the reg was before, that says you must keep a log that's true and accurate, etc., 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 and then they took that out, and they replaced it with the one that says you have to run an EOBR, and then the court came in and overturned that rule for that period of time there. Essentially what that did was it removed the language that said that you must keep a true and accurate log of your behavior. Now, whether or not anyone has actually exploited that or taken it to court to test it, I have no idea. But what I do know is that right now, everything with the hours of service is an absolute shit show because you have government suits meddling in something which first they don't understand. They're trying to make everybody operate in a textbook environment, and they have no freaking clue about how real world conditions affect us out here and when it is we're going to get tired and when we're not. And it actually makes it a lot harder for a driver to do their job, especially when you consider how the 14-hour rule hurts you. And actually, when it comes to sleeper berth, the 14-hour rule and sleeper berth actually hurt your hours of driving, and here is why. Is because if you drive and you take your 8 hours off, right? So let's say you drive 5 hours and then you take your 8 hours. Well, that does expend the 14-hour clock, right? But then you have to take that other 2-hour block. That other 2-hour block does not extend your 14-hour clock. That's an issue. And so a lot of people don't realize that that's how everything has to work and fit into that, because that 2-hour block, at least with the way my logbook software, because I'm sure there's varying opinions on this, because it just absolutely isn't clear, because they've just turned the hours of service thing here into just such a monstrous trapezoidal clusterfuck with so many different aspects and changes and everything else that no one really has a clear picture of what the rules actually say anymore. But according to my logbook software that I use, if you take 8 hours in the sleeper, that 8 hours will extend your 14, but the 2 hours off duty does not extend your 14. So that's the way that I've been led to understand it. Because of that, it's actually a bad deal. I think that what we really need to do is that we go back to the 2003 hours of service, where you can use any size block of sleeper berth as long as it's at least 2 hours to make up to your total of 10 hours, as long as you do it in 2 blocks. If we could go back to that, it would be way better for everybody that's out here driving. It would make the roads much more safer, and it would allow us to operate, just like I said, if you could stop and take a nap while rush hour is going on, get back up and drive again, it wouldn't be an issue. But we're actually making rush hour traffic worse today because you're in the situation where you're either drive and make money or sleep, and that's kind of stupid. All right, next question. Caleb Climb asks, "Hey Nick, great videos. I really enjoy them. Thanks. I was just curious, have you ever been caught up in a severe weather and or tornado while driving big rigs? Thanks, sir. Stay safe." Okay, I've been in some pretty serious weather, probably some of the worst I've seen. I caught the ass end of Hurricane Francis up in Ohio. I was delivering a load of aircraft-grade aluminum up there, and anyone who's ever hauled aircraft-grade aluminum knows that stuff cannot get wet. They put moisture monitors on it, and if it gets the slightest bit wet, it will tick off the little moisture monitor and they will reject the load, and that is very, very expensive on your insurance. So you really want to be careful about that when you haul that stuff. First, you wrap it in visqueen, then you put a padding tarp over it, then you put your tarps over it. That's how serious keeping that stuff dry is. And I was out there and there was power going out everywhere. It's raining like crazy. All the truck stops are full. Couldn't find a place to park. I was just out there stuck on the road trying to find a place to park. I pulled into this little gas station because I went through some water going into a delivery, and it knocked out all the lights to my trailer, and it blew the fuses up on the firewall. And I'd replace those, they blew again. I'd replace those, it blew again. So I was like, well, I need to let the water dry out of the trailer. And so I'd used up all my spare fuses too. And so I parked in this gas station, and I was just going to wait till morning and then tear off out of there. And then I had the local dickhead cop show up and kick me out of there. You can't be here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, this is an emergency situation. There's no parking, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't care. You need to leave. And so I got put out on the road again. And so I wound up driving a little ways up, got into Pennsylvania, where there's this truck stop up there. The truck stop was actually open, but what happened is they were completely flooded in. So they were open, but they couldn't leave. So what I wound up doing is parking my truck on an overpass. I had my four-ways going, so I at least had some lights on the back of the trailer. And so I'm out here running around. I mean, this is just a horrible experience. I'm out here running around. I'd blown all my fuses and everything, and I kind of narrowed it down. I figured it was my my pigtail going to the trailer. And so what I did is I wound up putting on my swimming trunks and a t-shirt, and I went down and I swam to the truck stop, holding my wallet over my head. I went inside, and I'm just dripping water, and I walk in like nothing's going on. I walk in, I grab some fuses, I grab a new pigtail for the trailer, I pay for it, I walk back out, and everyone's just looking at me like I'm crazy. Swim back to the truck now, holding this stuff in a plastic bag over my head. I get back out there, I climb up the embankment to the where my truck is. I throw the new pigtail in, I throw the new fuses in, all the lights start working, nothing's blowing now. I get the hood closed, we get the thing ready to run again. I get out on the passenger step, I just stripped down out there, grabbed a towel I'd left laid over the passenger seat, dried off right there, got in, threw my wet clothes in a bag, and off down the road I went and found a safe place to park, and still made my delivery on time. So that was and actually, you know, it's kind of funny, I was talking about split sleeper berth. If it would not have been for the split sleeper berth rule in those days, because this is back, I think, 2005 that this happened, if it would not have been for the split sleeper berth rule, I would have been so screwed and running illegal that night, but I was actually within the hours of service. It's kind of funny, because that's when I was leased to Yellowstone, and so when I was leased to Yellowstone, I called the safety director, and I told him about what had happened, and he actually put a message out over the Qualcomm to the entire fleet about it. It was kind of funny, saying, hey, you know, it is never too far to go to go get fuses, whatever it is you need. There's no excuse for not doing things safely, which was kind of funny. Next question. George Kirsten asked, the other night I found something really cool by Google searching Yellowstone Trucking. I clicked the images tab so I could see what their logo looked like, curious if I'd ever seen one of their trucks. I found images of a very nice red W900 with silver fenders pulling a step deck. Yep, an original from 2010 with pictures of red. That was one sharp looking truck. The last picture taken days before someone ran over your trailer and wrecked it. I'm curious, how did that happen? Did it damage red, and is that why red's now parked? Actually, no, that was not red. That was my first truck. That truck I got in 2003. I bought it December 15th of 2003. And I ran that truck the next couple of years. I put about 380,000 miles on that truck, and selling that truck was one of the dumbest things I ever did. And we called that truck Scarlet because the color of that truck was scarlet, and it's a really cool color. It was a really cool color. I really liked that truck, and unfortunately, I just after the guy ran over my trailer and destroyed my trailer. That was that trailer that I bought from Jack Bartlett. I had a lot of problems there. I'd had my hood torn off a couple months before that by Arrow Trucking. This is like right before they went bankrupt. It was in 2006 that they tore my hood off. And so I'd had a whole bunch of things like that happen, and I was just getting a little bit fed up with all the government regulations, the way they were screwing things around. I was tired of dealing with cops being assholes towards truckers. And so basically what happened was is I sold the truck. I just said, screw it, I put it up for sale, I sold the truck, I sold the trailer, I got out of it for a little while, and I lasted like 6 months, then I went and bought another truck, went trucking again. So that's how that truck left my life. And so those were actually older photos. I'm not sure where you found those at. I can't remember what forum I posted those on. They're probably posted several places, because I do really miss that truck, and I've seen it a couple of times since then. It's still out there running, and I should have kept the thing. I should have paid it off, because I was within a year. I think I had like 16 payments left on that truck. I would have paid it off. By the time the financial crisis happened, I would have owned my truck outright. I'd have been sitting in a really good position. And that's probably one of my biggest regrets, was kind of getting upset and doing that. And I'd been able to take that truck and do exactly what I wanted, and had a really, really nice truck on my hands. That was just an amazing truck. And I'm going to throw some pictures over this in the video of it. That was just a phenomenal truck. The reason that I parked red, though, is red is getting pretty old. Red's got like 1.4 million, somewhere like that. I'm not entirely sure how many miles. But the truck's got a lot of things it needs. I need to replace the sleeper on it. The engine's a 435 1550, and that's my big problem with red, is being a 435 1550, it does not have the power to pull the loads that I'm doing. And that's why I bought this truck, is because this thing's a 550 1850. It's got an 18 speed. Red has a 13 speed. Red does not make the kind of power that I need to get the job out here done. And pulling heavy haul with it like I was pulling just that 3-axle RGN, and Red's a 3-axle tractor, so I was a 6-axle setup. Even with that, it was really underpowered, and a lot of days I'd be out there running like 48 miles an hour as would be the average speed I was making, and I was losing my butt because of it, because I just wasn't able to make time. And so it was making it very hard for me to get my loads delivered on time and things like that. It was just, if I was pulling a step deck with it, I'm sure it'd be fine. And my plan was that I was going to put a bigger motor in the truck. I was just going to take the motor that was in it. I was going to have PDI go through it and make it, that big fire-breathing monster that they do. But at this point, knowing that I'm not going to stay in the industry, I'm probably just going to sell the truck here this summer. And it's unfortunate, because I really wanted to fix that one up, but I need to do something with it, otherwise it's going to deteriorate. So before it starts going to hell, I'm going to get it cleaned up this summer and sold. And that's it for the Wednesday Q&A. If you guys got questions, I got answers, leave them in the comments below, and I will answer them on the show.